Hello, my fellow tanking gamers. We're here to talk about the most recent World of Tanks Modern Arm. Oh, wait. This is the TD220 Bastion Mark 16 tank from Helldivers 2, developed by the Swedish game developer Arrowhead. They just released this tank into the Helldivers 2. Very Russian-esque tank, kind of like an Object 268 version 3 with a 120mm boom sound attached to it. Because Super Earth is the good guys, and not like some of the other early concepts for automaton tank and stuff were very small mustachioed man tank styles. Yeah, sorry about that. How did this get here? I'm so sorry. I will now return to talking about the most recent World of Tanks Modern Armor terrain test, which I think was more or less... Listen, this is a multifaceted problem. And I think the main problem is we, as the player base, and the developers, all think bigger maps are the key solution to this, and terrain resistance is the problem. Well, terrain resistance is a small part of the problem. Bigger maps are not necessarily the solution. It's the topography of the maps that are the solution. This occurred to me as I was playing, especially in Era 3, where it's like, if, just to keep this college math simple, if all the tanks are going 70 kilometers per hour, all have a top speed of 7 kilometers per hour, then you have weight and transmissions that will be affecting that speed, because then you have hills being the deciding factor of all this. And if you're a long-time subscriber or viewer of my channel, you know, as a fan of Eastern Alliance tanks, I hate hills. Why? Yeah, Soviet tanks can't get depressed because they have no gun depression. Hills seem to be kind of like the default way to slow down or give other tanks an advantage. We need to stop thinking big maps with hills is a solution to this. We need to start designing maps with land features specifically catering to specific tanks. Not too hard, I'll get to that in a second, while also impeding other tanks. Imagine, if you will, you were to come across, say, you're in a weasel tow, and there's a forest on your left. Yes, an actual forest. You could try to get through that to flank the enemy on the other side of the map, but you would be completely and utterly bogged down by the forest, and you'd be slowed down, so you'd have to back up, go the long way. Now imagine if you're in an M1A1 Abrams, and you'd be like, oh, trees. That'll slow me down by 5 kilometers per hour, and also clear a path for my light tanks that can't get through this. So now the MBTs have a key element to work through, and the light tanks be like, I need a teammate to help me here, or I can't go. Now, let's say we come across some boulders that are now not too close together to where an MBT can't get through, but an Abrams driver is going to have to stop and be like, alright, I got to focus on threading this needle to get through this land. That if I want to chase down this weasel toe that just flew through there, I've got to either A, try to trace them, risk being held up by these boulders, possibly even tipped on my side, making myself a prime target, or for now, I let that Weissel run off, and I go off another direction that I can work with, and continue on the match. But now, the Weissel player can't just sit there behind the boulders out of sight, because if he sits there, and again, we have arming distance, and if we have a curve in the scenario, meaning there's no clear line of sight, so if the M1A1 Abrams, I know, I should be drawing this on a whiteboard, I'm sorry, use your imagination. All of you are over the age of 25. You have something to work with in your mind's eye, alright? You then Abrams comes through. The Weissel player has to go, well, I have half a second to get a clear shot on the front of a well-armored MBT and hopefully do damage, or I run away. If that, and when Abrams comes there. Again, not a hills per se, just land features that cater to one type of tank while impeding but not directly stopping another type of tank. This is what we need to see more of. Not just make it bigger, or gee, we're gonna take the easy way, we're gonna tweak some things here and be like, oh yeah, the MBTs, they're now heavier, so they grind more into the slow down, and oh, we're gonna make the mud thicker and water deeper, something, you know. Yeah, those are all realistic, but it's still, as we've learned here after the first couple days, like, yep, everyone back into the pack. Everyone went back to the pack because, like, oh, the light tanks, the small tanks, would only have a slight advantage over the MBTs for like 3 seconds, and then like, oh, all right, depending on what type of light tank you had, with possibly you could be doing 90 kilometers per hour or 75 kilometers per hour, and then you have a T-80U coming up on you at 74 kilometers per hour. It's like, oh, okay, well, you know, oh, you've only slightly slowed down some of the bigger tanks. Okay? And unless they had a low top speed to begin with, it's just not going to make a huge difference. This is where we need to start seeing land features that we know will directly impact certain type of tanks. We have many tank battles throughout history and testing, real world testing, that we can look back and be like, oh, all right, maybe we shouldn't do it through this way. We have to have proper trails. We have to have frozen ground. We have the mud ground. And then, so we get away from hills per se. And also we have more land features that can obscure lines of sight. So you have some way to make believe you're tactful. So you're being tactical. Now, here's something, especially as urban maps, not the old ones, because these can't handle we can't remodel all these, because this requires some significant remodel maps. Maybe some of these destructible buildings, we put in one of the most feared features that any person with a tracked vehicle will fear, and that's basements. And as one faithful driver of a Komatsu bulldozer proved, basements and heavy tracked vehicles do not go well together. But I've been saying impede, not bring to a complete and utter dead stop and make you the perfect target. And a tank with half of its nose buried in a house basement is being like, yeah, that rear end's completely exposed. So this is where we have to see, is there a way to where it's a harsh drop, but we can have, this is where we have a way to get out or get pushed out without sacrificing another teammate, and also limit them. Because if you don't have the time to pull yourself out or push yourself out, get pushed out of a basement, maybe don't make it too deep, you know, make it like a 4-foot, you know, sub-basement for like vegetables. A vegetable basement thing. I don't know. Go watch Evil Dead 2. You'll know what I mean. And there we have something. And obviously, maybe we can make these buildings stand out a bit. So experienced takers will be like, oh yeah, that red house in the middle of that sea of white suburbia, yeah, stay away from that one. Oh, new player totally just had to smash through because he was going all smashy in their heavy tank. Good job on you. Obviously, this would be Cold War only because F you Artie. So, that is my thoughts on Terrain Test 2. That is, we need maps that actually cater and that are more like, yeah, I can't take, not tank. I'm not going to take my Abrams through a whole bunch of rocky terrain because I have limited turning radius. Now, a light tank player might be like, the MBTs can't follow me. MBTs can't come at me. I can use this to my advantage, get around, get through here, and then be able to flank or take up a better spotting position. Yay, I brought in your hills. I brought the hills back here, okay? Obviously, we'd have to be concerned with, like, every tank should be able to get to everywhere, but just make it so some tanks get there more easily while others can't. Because we don't want a scenario where that damn Weissel Mark 1 is just hiding in a little nook because of poor map design. It's like, yeah, we can't, unless we had artillery, there's no way we can get too up or any angle to fire on this Weissel. And yeah, nope. Also, maybe some more bushes too, you know. That's my thought. We need to think more about landscaping than we need to think about terrain resistance, okay? Anyway, comment down below what you think of this. Is it too much to ask that if the Swedish tank line does come into Wargaming's World X Mod Armor, and we are huge fans of collaborations around here, maybe we could have a modern collaboration? Or am I just taking this whole Swedish thing too far and just really desperate to see, just, yeah. That Bastion tank looks a lot like an Object 268 version 3 with a 120mm boom snout. It's only capable of doing 32 kilometers per hour. You boost that up with boosters and suddenly you have, 45, 48 kilometers per hour-ish, give or take an arrow or two. Well armored from the front, but poor armor from the rear and side. Yeah, sounds about right. I'm just saying. Anyway, I'm just gonna... I'll let this clip play out, and then, yeah. Keep your tracks on the ground. Hopefully these aren't in favor, and I'll, hopefully catch you in the next one. Bye.
Can be restored. The impudence of those brutes!